We had activism all across the nation, and they're painting it like it was huge. People from Brazil are like, "Are you okay? Is it burning down?" They are painting this like black people were tearing up this country, and that's not the case. And this is pre-verdict. This is how we're all connected to this pain. It was intense. But if this shit goes the other way, and justice is not going to start to be said, it doesn't make up for the thousands of lives, probably tens of thousands of lives that have been lost over the past 4 centuries, black lives. But if we don't start with the men that murdered George Floyd, then I don't even want to think about what's going to happen. I pray that we can find a peaceful solution, but like homie said, like the civil discourse, man, this may be the last time for it. And in that unrest, how many racist institutions were burned to the ground? How much power changed hands? How much fear was perpetuated? How many eyes were actually opened? How many hearts were hardened? How many future racists were prevented? And how many were created? How many racists were scared further into hiding? And how many fears and stereotypes were confirmed by what the news promoted? And speaking of that, 2 weeks before this, for the unrest, for the demonstrations, there were people demonstrating in white neighborhoods in Michigan, here in Huntington Beach, on about not being able to have their freedoms because of COVID and quarantine. They couldn't wait another week to go surfing. Oh my God. But these people were armed and they were marching, and some of them were armed. A lot of them were yelling and antagonizing. Sometimes the police weren't even called, but if the police were called, there's no actions taken against these white people. But the unpopular hot take is they're American citizens yelling at the police. And yes, they weren't treated the same way. But if you take out the circumstances, they're just American citizens frustrated with the law and their government. And a couple weeks later, in the name of George Floyd, there was a bunch of citizens of America angered by their government, enraged by the law. Is there common ground? Or we just say, hey, if you guys want to surf, we'll let y'all surf. If you can just admit that Black Lives Matter for a second, because then we'll have the numbers, we'll have the unity. And keep in mind, like, there's Fred Hampton in Chicago, who was a leader of the Black Panthers. And from my understanding, I may have this wrong, I'm not a historian, I'm a rapper, like I said, I don't have the answers, but somewhere around in the late 60s, he had the idea of unifying the Latino population and the poor white population. I think they're called the Young Americans, considered to be right-wing, conservative, racist. And he started bringing everyone together. And that's when they had him assassinated. That's when they had him killed. If you could look across the aisle at another human being and find a common thread, and like, hey, well, once we get these motherfuckers out of the way, the people in power, y'all go this way, we go that way, if that's what it has to be. And it doesn't have to be like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was preaching, separated by color. It could just be separated by, y'all want guns and y'all want to surf and ignore pandemics, go over there. And we go over here. But the people that are in power fear all of us getting together. And that may not be possible at this point. But it's just the idea. It's a question. What is our agenda? And I'm seeing some great BLM agendas. The People's Budget getting presented here. Black Lives Matter Los Angeles got presented today. I think that's beautiful. There's meetings scheduled. I love that. Find out what the agenda is, especially allies, so you're not acting out of line with the greater good, because you may not be as in touch as you think you are. Tap in before you take action. We gotta organize because this time was all willy-nilly and a little bit organized, but there were definitely infiltrators. And that's another thing too. Maybe it's time for somebody to have a talk with Antifa if they exist. And to say, look, if you want to co-opt our movement and you want to come be a part of it, y'all got to stop. And I posted on whatever social media, like, it's time to get the local gang members involved. And if they don't want to get down with the real movement, then we got to police these motherfuckers, man. And trust me, no one knows how to interact with the police better than your local gang members. And what the police would hate to see is a bunch of gangbangers backed up by tens of thousands of civilians. And I know if there's such thing as anarchists taking advantage of this movement, they don't want no parts of that either. You see a fucking pallet of bricks just magically laying around, put 10 Bloods or Crips around and tell anybody to touch that brick, they're getting fucked up. It's just that simple, man. It's working in that community. And that's, were they provoking the protesters? Was this protest put on in order? Like, were they getting us riled up so that you guys, protesters, could be arrested and taken to some of these facilities where our brothers and sisters and human beings, if you don't believe in black lives and brown lives, but black and brown people are locked up at an alarming rate. You guys have all seen the statistics by now, but forget that they're locked in there during a fucking pandemic and not receiving proper care. And if you get arrested during a protest, or if you're looting or whatever and you go to jail, it's another risk you're taking because no one's being adequately cared for in there. I don't know. Definitely watch the new Wale video. Yeah. For those of you who have ideas of burning things down, for those of you who are dealing with things that are actually burned down that are out of your community, my family has had a business in South Central for 67 plus years. That's through the Watts uprising, that's through the 92 uprising, and didn't get that close this time, amen. And shout out to y'all for moving it out of the neighborhood if you have to do that type of thing. Took my mother sitting on different city councils in her community, my mother in her community, working with various leaders, 13 years to put back the grocery store, to gain access to the Rebuild LA funds allotted by the federal government, the state. It took that long. So this is from experience. I grew up going to this grocery store. It burned to the ground. That lot stayed a vacant lot, I believe, for at least a decade. Then they put up housing, gentrifiable housing, really nice housing. Then they put a grocery store in. 13 years. It's a necessity to any neighborhood. Central and Adams, facts, check it out. So before you go out there and do anything, and anyone that needs a resource of my mother or that, because there's going to be communities that are going to receive funding and want to know how to access this quickly and do this a lot more efficiently. My mother is, I'm sure, I'm sorry, Mama, but I'm sure you're willing to help. Yeah, this looked a lot different. I'm looking at my notes. Can we mobilize? And as we push the police out, if we defund the police and we ask these people to go home, can we mobilize our local gang members? Can we deputize them? Do they want to be a part of this? Are you familiar with them? Are you canvassing and building with the people in the neighborhoods of need before or after there's an incident or a moment of mass action? This still goes on. We're still black every day. It's not going to stop anytime soon, and definitely not without your assistance. And more than holding the sign and marching, that's bringing awareness. But now there has to be action. And before I get to the next section, I just want to... Another abstract idea, unpopular hot take. as the crack epidemic hit us, they also took away a lot of the factory jobs, as I mentioned, but that also affected poor white communities or lower middle class white communities, the Simi Valleys and Silmars of the world. And that's where a lot of LAPD, in my experience, come from. A lot of sheriffs come from, not from our neighborhood. But it's because they don't have the factory jobs either anymore. But they didn't have the crack option. But hey, you want to make 60 grand a year? Taking some niggas to jail? Fuck it, why not? I get a gun, I get good benefits, I get a good pension. Why not? You know? A lot of these cops, as I've met some cops and servicemen that are white, they have a lot more in common with a lot of my gangbanging homies, man. They patrol the neighborhood. When they're not at work, they want to drink and they want to play video games and fuck around with women. Same shit, man. There's, they play Call of Duty too. They like basketball. They like hip hop. But they want money. They got to get a job. And just like so many, and these black men are also pardoned by a lot of people in the community, especially the ones that rap about selling drugs and killing other black men. Like, I don't judge any black man. Like, homeboy said it, Dave Chappelle said it, man. Like, if you're making it in this system, you're my goddamn hero. But a lot of these white people and other colors that join the force, they're letting even black people. They're like, hey, I'm not gonna sell crack. I'm not gonna join the NBA, but I'll join the PD. Fuck it. They have put us in a position, the powers that be, the 1%, whatever you want to call them, where we are willing to do anything to make a living. And a lot of these officers are just making a living, and they gang up and they, make poor choices, or they become part of the mob mentality. I seen some of my homeboys that got recruited to be gang members. You get part of the mob mentality. We're tribal, black and white people. The Vikings are tribes. It's war. It's men. It's aggression. It's like they're channeling all this primal energy into ways we can be manipulated and stay separate. But my question to the PD is, if you don't live here, and this is what you're willing to do, you're willing to kill us in the street to protect your job. Imagine what we're willing to do to protect our lives. I've seen a lot of signs. You take that uniform off. I don't take this uniform off. So if I become a target because of this, oh, you best believe it's on. And you're going to go home. In the 92 riots, they took the LAPD off the street and brought the National Guard in, right? They went home. Don't nobody really go at it for 60 grand a year. That's not enough. Because they don't care about this community in the first place. It's a fucking check. We have doctors in this country doing their work for a fucking check that could care less. Scheduling your C-section or your birth, inducing labor so that they can make the next round of golf. This is a fucked up system, man. And my hope is that we don't have to burn this motherfucker to the ground. That we don't have to have blood in the streets in order to right this shit, because there's some fucking really good ideas. And that's why, as I've traveled the world, I say I'm proud in certain ways to be an American. Because the idea of this shit is good. We gotta work hard to switch some shit around. And it can be done, I think, through hard work. And a lot of people don't want hard work. And some of you guys who have never been around guns or been around deaths or people getting shot may think it's cute and may think race war and those things are in fighting, shooting the police and police shooting, like it's something to play with. It's not. It could get real ugly, and we're reaching the point. I just watched Malcolm X talking about the powder keg. We're at that point again. But if we put our heads down, and not put our heads down, ignore shit, but focus on what the fuck we have to do as human beings to push this further. Because if that verdict comes back guilty, it doesn't make everything right. If it comes back not guilty, it doesn't make everything right. There's still work to be done. And I'd rather do the long game. I'd rather do the hard work. And I could be biased because I'm speaking as a parent who doesn't want to see my kids suffer, who doesn't want to have to go out in these streets and defend their lives. And pick up a gun after how many ever fucking years. But People are talking, man, and things are not getting handled. There's no leader stepping up. Our president isn't saying the right shit. Motherfuckers aren't saying the right shit. They're being divisive. And this is a good fucking system. I don't care what you say, and we can argue, and because I don't have the answers, but to me, it's obvious. Communism is falling. Socialism is falling. If they all had good concepts within them, capitalism will fall next. It's not it's not how. It's not when. It's gonna happen. Fact. All these ideals are flawed. But will we be the first to, before we have to fall flat on our face and destroy ourselves and implode, will we be the first to say, hey, there are some tenets of socialism that come to work? And my neighbor told me the other day, it's like, we don't clean the streets. We don't pick up the trash. We don't pay for schools. That's all socialism. That's all ideas from socialism. It's not that foreign. We could take a couple ideas from both and a couple more isms and incorporate them and rewrite and restructure this shit over the next 3-4 years. I mean, 30 to 40 years, 50 years, sorry, 3 or 4 decades. And it can be righter. Our not even our ancestors, our grandparents and great-grandparents set us on this path. Whether you believe integration was right or wrong, it's done. And then out of that, to me, came hip-hop, which I love, which is why I'm even able to talk and have 2 people listen to what the fuck I'm saying. We can take that and we can move the ball further down the field, or we can spike this motherfucker and we can all get down right now. But I guarantee you, that's not what 99.9% of y'all really want. If you've ever been in some shit like that, when there's a fucking way to work this out, we just have to get our heads out of our asses long enough. And that definitely goes a huge shout out to white America on that. Get your fucking head out of your ass. You've been living privileged. You've been living well. It's time to set shit right. It's never been more urgent because it's not going to be easy for you. It's going to be scary for everyone if this shit goes sideways. And I could go into depth with these scenarios that I have planned out. I'm an artist, so I'm creative. But no way the citizens of America shooting at each other end in anything other than bloodshed for a long time. And it may right itself after that. And there are people who say there's no revolution. I don't hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's how history is made, by changing shit. I don't believe we're doomed. You know, I'm going to work towards the best and prepare for the worst, as always. Because of the children. That's my last part. What do the children see? My mother gave me a great analogy about people dogging Condoleezza Rice. Kids don't get that. And both of these black women are phenomenal in their own way, but kids, the mom said, little black girls don't see Condoleezza Rice as a Republican. They see that she's dark-skinned and she's articulate. She doesn't sing, she doesn't dance. She wears she's fully clothed. They say Beyonce wearing provocative shit and have long hair and she's lighter skinned and she's showing off her body and she's singing, and they see that and people like that. So who do they want to be? And everybody hates Condoleezza Rice. All they see is the hate. They don't understand the politics. You know, you're right to be vehemently opposed to Mrs. Wright's stance on things, right? But kids don't see that. And I got that. And it made me agree with Condoleezza Rice. And then it made me love or hate Beyonce. It just made me say, oh, okay, there's children. I wasn't a parent yet. Now I'm a parent. I get it. They see police kill black men. And they see that makes people upset. They see police are bad. Does that make good people not want to grow up and be policemen? Because I know I scared my little brother, who was an excellent human. I probably triggered him to not want to. And then I'm yelling, fuck the police. But I'm stopping good people from becoming the police. People from our community, we demonize if they become police. And then we yell, fuck the police. People get sick. All they know is there's a virus floating around. And people are mad. They can't surf. They can't blah, blah. Just see, people get sick, they get mad. When people kill black people, people get mad. But they're not mad together. And during all this shit, is this too much? How much trauma are these kids enduring? I have a first grader, I have a 2-year-old, and I have a 10-month-old. They haven't been to a playground. They haven't had any play dates. They just saw their grandparents for the first time in 3 months. And on top of that, I have to explain to them What's going on? We see the police when we walk. Why can't we go outside past 6 p.m.? I had to explain that to my kid one day. Like he was like, I'm a fucking kid. I got somebody telling, I get the anger, man. But I had to explain to my kid, like, oh, there's people upset. Why are they upset? Because the police killed. Why do the police keep doing this? That's the narrative that we're creating for kids. And he's a black kid. Why do they, and he's almost in tears. Why do they keep doing this, Pop? Why are they so mean? He's not going to want to be a cop. They are the most important humans. Fuck you. Fuck me. What are we going to do to ensure that these motherfuckers, and I say kids, I'm sorry, my language is bad, but I'm rough around the edges. What are we going to do to make sure that these motherfuckers have a place to call home that's not inside of a fucking bunker? And we're not talking about the fucking great whatever, great pandemic, race war, whatever, earthquake, whatever's coming next. We just got fucking cyber bombed today. Who knows what's fucking next? But all of us are feeling something. Whether you're angered by the Black Lives Matter movement, whether you're ridden with guilt, there's people of anger on both sides. There's a lot of emotion going on. And I pray that we can move forward, because the alternative is garbage. Is garbage. And I'm not saying that because I'm personally in fear for my life. I say that because there will be losses on any side. Whenever there's a war, there's losses on any side. Whether it's a race war, a COVID war, or poor versus the rich war. Like, people promoting all kind of shit. And when the poor do this and they eat the rich, and man, I'm not into all the semantics. We have a fucking pretty decent system, man. Let's exhaust this possibility. Let's all fucking go out to vote the same way everyone took to the streets, the same way everyone posted. I've never seen so many people post about one topic ever. Why can't we post like that during the election? And my personal is, like, all you third party people, like, because I'm more like, I don't really know any Trump supporters. I just know people who are saying, I'm going to write in Bernie anyway. Okay. Bro, like, if I don't see you talking third party shit, I agree. In Germany, I believe there's something like 20 plus fucking parties for a population that's way smaller. I think 10 times smaller. We're 10 times as big as Germany, I think, population wise. And they have 20 something things. And I think they have 6 to 7 in their parliament or House of Representatives, Senate type of thing, council. I don't know what it's called. Excuse my ignorance. 6 or 7 in there. Why do we still have 2 with 300 million people? And we are living in the greatest experiment known to mankind. I know China, France, a lot of people judge America, but fuck you. We're dealing with high level fucking science. There's not a place that's more diverse with more people trying to get the fuck along from so many different backgrounds, genders, transgender, gay, straight, queer, bi. There's so much going on here that's not going on. We're large, we're diverse, and if we figure this out, we're doing high level science right now. People in Spain couldn't figure it, like, people judging us like, fuck off, man. You couldn't figure out to get, you guys all are from the same place. We're all a bunch of immigrants here. Except for my native brothers and sisters, and I'm sorry. Because our government won't say what the fuck is right, and I had nothing to do with it. But other than that, we're all visitors. We're all immigrants. There's nowhere like this on the planet Earth. But if we figure this shit out, how to live in harmony, we could share that with the rest of the world. I think, fuck all the bravado. I think that's why the world looks to America. Because we are the future, and if we could figure this shit out, we could probably I believe, stupidly, ideally we could figure out world peace. Because there's so many different people here, man, and that's the beauty of it. I'm up for it if you're up for it. So third party, bro, like, I definitely want to talk to you about that after this election, bro. Like, talk to me the day after. The day after. we get this dude. This dude in there is dangerous, man. I didn't believe it was not that I was pro him, but I wasn't as like, I bought a house under Obama. I bought a house under Trump. I'm handling like I said, I'm gonna head down, get it done. Fuck, I'm not gonna give that much power to any outside party. But there's kids in cages. He's not saying the right thing during the pandemic. He's not saying the right thing, and there's a racial volcano erupting. I've seen someday some black women convincing a white woman that Joe Biden's gonna lock up a bunch of black people. I've read his book. I've watched him before he was president. I watched him when he was battling with Obama to be the Democratic nominee. I've been aware of him for that long. That's not as long as he's been around, but I've been aware of him since before when he said he wasn't running at all. And I don't know what you're seeing that I'm not seeing. But cool, if you're voting for Trump, I can't convince you. I can't sway you. But if you are doing a third party thing, it takes more than when a ballot comes up to be third party. I'm down. The next day, bro, I promise you, what I gotta do? I'm all about finding another option. Because this country's too divided to have three. Because it's pushing the people that are mid-right to far right, or the people that are center to the right. It's pushing people. I get it. There needs to be more parties. It's stupid that there's only two, and they want only two, and the powers that be want only two. It's simple. It's easier to manipulate. It's easier to control. We got to come up with more parties, not just three. Those on the right, come up with your new party. I'd rather talk to more civil, intelligent, balanced people on the right than having to talk to extremists or people who give up so they let the extremists speak for them. We got to do it right. We got to get it right. I refuse to see any other way until I'm forced to see it. I love you if you're still watching. I don't know, man. This has been this, and now I'm gonna, like I said before, like I do, I put my head down, go to work. Judge me if you will. But I rap. I spread hope. I love my art form, my craft. I've devoted my life to it, and I've brought people of all races and backgrounds together because of it. And I will continue to do that. And you can mock me in the comments. You could talk behind my back. But for me, the revolution is raising my 3 little black boys every day. I've read, just today, I probably read 10 books to them, and I love it because that was never done for me. And fixing the family is so important. That's my act of revolution, along with empowering young black men through supporting their businesses. Please continue to do that. I can sit off and list a bunch of them, but please continue to support them. Look at my page, look around your community and see a young black person, male or female, that you can uplift. I tend to focus on the boys because the male leadership is needed. The hard-headedness, the homophobia, the self-hate is real. And I'm here to talk about and combat all of it and show you how to be a family man. And I don't know, because I'm trying to be the father that my mother was, which was great. But she can't teach me certain things, so I'm learning. And I'm always down to talk. I'm always down. And like I said, I may have a very large white fan base, but I live in the black community. I support the black community. I'm on Central Ave. I'm in Leimert Park. I'm in Inglewood. And one of those places every day of my life. So if you see me, and some of y'all have seen me, let's talk about it, man. What are we going to do? On the most extreme case or whatever, let's talk about it. But let's talk about it offline. Let's not post about it, because they are watching. They are observing, they're listening, they're reading everything. And with COVID, they made it almost impossible for us to get together and talk. But we don't have to talk in large groups, man. We don't have to touch it. We have to shake hands, but we could talk. White, black, brown, yellow, like I said, LGBTQ, whatever. Let's talk. What is your community doing? What is your team doing? Let's align. Because they've been watching this time. And the next time this happens, they're going to be even more prepared. Are we going to be prepared as the people? Are we planning? Are we strategizing? And like I said, I see it a lot. Tap in. I'm going to tap in when I can and where I can, with the BLM chapter here in Los Angeles and with other places. And let's be consistent. Let's try to work this through this election. And if we don't get the results and we all come out like we just did, the masses that came out, we stormed the voting polls like that, and this shit doesn't go right, it's another conversation, and I'm open to that too. And I have your back, and I'm down to start preparing for that as well. Right now, I'm prepared to vote. I'm prepared to talk, debate, whatever it takes. But also keeping the power with us, not giving the power to whoever is elected. Because it's obvious they couldn't stop COVID and they couldn't save George Floyd. It's going to be up to us to figure this shit out. And I believe in you.